Hi, my name is Isabel, and I am a PhD researcher in the field of marine biology. Today, I'll be discussing what subjects I chose in high school, as well as what led me to the career path I am currently on. So, starting with school, I had a very broad array of interests that I kind of went more towards maths and science. And was because I liked how, more often than not, there is a yes or no answer to the questions you ask. It challenges you intellectually, and you can also make discoveries which help others and contributes positively to society. This last one was a big one for me because I've always liked the idea of pursuing a career that made a positive impact on the world. I had originally envisioned myself leaving school and becoming a nurse or a doctor, hence my choice of human biology. However, in also choosing geography as a waste subject, it taught me about the critical need for the well-being and sustainability of our environment and society. Because of this, I had a last-minute change in heart and decided to study marine science in university. For my undergrad, I studied a Bachelor of Science at Murdoch University, with my first major in marine science and my second major in conservation and wildlife biology. What I enjoyed most about this course was how much hands-on learning was available, with many experiences gained through field trips, camps, and lab work, as well as through numerous volunteering opportunities. The benefit to this exposure we gained to what career paths were available to us after graduation, but most of all, it allowed us to actually test out these career paths so we could really tease out what we did and didn't enjoy. On this slide, I've put together some examples of the volunteering and fieldwork experience that I gained during my undergrad. In these two pictures here, I was undertaking some coral restoration. In these two pictures, we were doing surveys to assess the impacts of mine sites on flora. And then specifically in this one, we were assessing the impact of light pollution on flatback turtle nesting. And then in this one here, we assess the extent of marine plastic pollution on an isolated beach down south, which is a very topical area of study at the moment. I was also lucky to have the opportunity to travel with these experiences, with some of the locations in these pictures being Exmouth, the Seychelles, which is an archipelago of islands off the coast of Africa. This one here is the Maldives and Rottnest, as well as Albany over here, which is down south. From here, I decided to further my education by studying a Master of Biological Science, specifically in marine science at the University of Western Australia. In your Masters, you get given the opportunity to do a research project, and I was lucky to come across a really cool project in the field of aquaculture, which is something I had never considered before, but I'll come back to this in a moment. I just wanted to, before I continue, really reiterate how diverse this area of study is, and as a result, many of my peers throughout my studies have gone on to do some really different and exciting things. So I've just put together some of these jobs just to give you some examples. So some of my peers have gone on to jobs within science communication, which are represented by being the resident marine biologist on an ecotourism whale charter, as well as filmography and documentary making. Some have gone into environmental consulting, whilst others now work in deep sea exploration, which explores the parts of the sea that have never been seen by humans before, which is very cool, as well as research in general, which in itself is very, very broad. And then there's myself. So going down the career path of aquaculture now, which brings me to my PhD. So my PhD was a continuation on from the research project that I previously mentioned as part of my master's. And this is the broad research title, which is utilizing insect meal in freshwater aquaculture. To give some background information, currently most fishery stocks are assessed as over or fully exploited. If you're not familiar with this terminology, it essentially means that the subpopulations of fish species that we remove from the ocean, for example, tuna, for practices such as human consumption, are reducing in size. So this becomes problematic as fish provide many benefits in the human diet. For example, they cover minimal dietary intake requirements, and they also enable access to nutrients that we cannot readily gain through other animal protein sectors such as beef and poultry. Now, aquaculture is a method that can potentially combat this problem as we can farm the fish instead of removing them from the ocean. However, many farmed fish species are carnivorous, so they require protein in the form of other fish. In the industry, we call this fish meal, which essentially means refined fish, and you can liken it to the way that almonds are turned into almond meal. If we take into consideration that the aquaculture industry is rapidly increasing and that the wild fish captures are in decline, the supply of fish will not be able to cover this growing demand. And this is also a poor use of available resources. So the fish originally caught could actually be going straight onto the human dinner plate instead of being fed to other fish to then be fed to humans. So we find ourselves in a position of following the same cycle and not actually solving the problem. One solution to breaking this cycle is finding alternatives to fish meal, which still enable the production of healthy fish that have a high quality fillet for human consumption. So this is what a fish pellet looks like. And when you make a fish pellet, you can liken it to baking a cake in a way. So you have the cake batter, which includes the flour, eggs, sugar, and so on, which is the same for every cake you make. And then you have the flavoring, which is the part that you change. So for a fish pellet, we have the base diet, which contains ingredients such as wheat and poultry. And then we have the fish meal component, which is the part we want to change, so the flavoring. When researchers look into replacements for the fish meal, they have tried using plants and insects instead, and both have their pros and cons, which I will not go into. But for my research, we've decided to go with a larvae from an insect called the black soldier fly. So we like to think of these flies as the Superman of insects. They have so many amazing qualities that make them ideal for mass production. For example, the adults don't feed in their adult form, and because of this, they don't spread disease. So this compares to those annoying houseflies that we get that will feed and lay maggots on food that we've accidentally let out or has been left rotting. The larvae of these flies are also hugely beneficial in building towards environmental sustainability. As they feed on organic waste, which comes in many different forms, such as leftover food, and then they turn this into their own biomass by utilizing the proteins, fats, and energy from the food waste. And because of this, they can help reduce pollution, greenhouse gas emissions, as well as the global problem we have of food waste. On a food production perspective side of things, they are high in protein and fat, which makes them very comparable to fish meal and a good substitute in theory. But this is where my PhD comes in. So I will be researching whether the black soldier fly larvae are indeed a good substitute, and we'll quantify this in many ways. However, the two most important ways will be through the most important way will be through a growth experiment, but then we'll also test the human perspective side of things. I will feed the diets containing the black soldier fly larvae to rainbow trout, marron, as well as barramundi. And throughout this trial period, we will do data collection in several different ways, but the true highlights to determine whether it is a successful a successful substitute is through their growth as well as their fillet quality. Now, it is important that we have the human perception on the final product, as this is absolutely everything in marketing. So if we're able to grow a fish that is 3 times the usual size, but the fillet doesn't taste any good, I'm sure you wouldn't want to be buying it at Coles for dinner. So from these results we produce, we are hoping to aid the overall sustainable development of the aquaculture industry, as well as reduce dependency on wild fish. So here is a little overview of what a day in the life of my PhD currently looks like. So first up, we have got a little video here of monitoring fish health. So these are some rainbow trout. Then we have got feeding of barramundi. We also do data collection. So this is a picture of us collecting data from a rainbow trout that has been fed the experimental diet for 3 months already. And then we have the growing of the larvae and the processing of it, which is turning it into food. So this is the whole larvae, and then we've processed it into just the protein, but now becomes the insect meal. That is all I have got for you guys today. If you have any questions on this topic, marine science in general, and if you need any help in choosing your career path, if you want to do something similar, you're more than welcome to just send me an email. We can chat then. Thank you. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.